Welcome to Shares Who, your top spot for politics. Now, my role in bringing great content on current events requires your great role in liking and commenting on this YouTube video and subscribing to this YouTube channel. Be sure to do that, and I'll point out that which gets the show going, starting with, of course, Mr. Farley Perkins at the Farley Perkins Agency. To help with your insurance needs, hit up 757-271-6655. And if you're feeling like a sweet treat, then head on down to ELG Sweet Boutique in High Street in Portsmouth, specifically 340 High Street. If you want some good solid food, then you need to head over to Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue Express, where there's actually two Hampton Roads locations across from Regent University in Virginia Beach and right here in Portsmouth at 4206 Portsmouth Boulevard. And please excuse that helicopter. If you need help with some financials, hit up Positive Vibes Incorporated. They do consulting services and entertainment. He's a really great DJ, Mr. Seiko Varner, and he created the Hampton Roads Grain Book, which is a fantastic app to find Black-owned businesses in Hampton Roads. And don't forget Black Swan Mindset, The Chronicles, a subdivision of Shares Who, with a new video, I believe, coming out this week. So make sure to tune in for that. Now, I have spent a significant amount of time on the pro-Palestinian movement after it became clear Israel wasn't reasonably going for just Hamas after the 2023 October 7th terrorist attacks. Now, I know how that sounds. Applying reasonable to Hamas after October 7th, it's clear that was a terrorist attack. It killed thousands of people. It was especially bloody and didn't discriminate against ages, civilian or military. And as terrorist attacks by definition are, there were political reasons at play. And not to trot out all of the Israel and Palestine post-1948 relationship, but a chief reason Hamas did the attack was the Abraham Accords. Long policy short, the Abraham Accords was a 2020 Trump-led effort to get many nations in the Middle East to recognize Israel officially. Neighboring nations to Israel are Muslim nations. So the name was an easy pick, highlighting common heritage between faiths after the life of the prophet Abraham, recognized as a central figure in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic faiths. Many of those neighboring nations did fully recognize Israel, which sets up a diplomatic relationship that didn't exist. And if that could be considered a good, one has to analyze who thinks it's a bad. Palestinians and those who believe in the Palestinian cause think it's a bad. They view it as severely weakening their cause, the nationalistic dogma inherent to the belief that Palestinians are due the area of Palestine, which they believe was taken from them by international force in 1948, as well as subsequent land takings and various wars and land settlements. October 7th inflamed this, as there were plans to seize more West Bank land and pretty much all of Gaza. Regardless, October 7th was a horrible attack on largely an innocent populace, with additional hostages taken, all in the name of geopolitics. So while I'm readily able to admit how October 7th was bad on a very basic human scale, I am just as able to have some nuance and acknowledge what leads people to doing that. If you reflexively admit all terrorism is bad, sure, that's low-hanging fruit. And it's not like people like me encourage terrorism. There's a significant reason why I want to do a show like this. The massive Republican response in this nation, and largely Democrat response in this nation too, is to easily label a Palestinian cause or Palestinian humanity or belief that they're just like me in terms of land to call theirs and rights to enjoy, that all of that is anti-Semitism. I'll give you an example. Trump's going after Harvard for, quote, not protecting Jewish students. Where'd that belief come from? The massive demonstrations against the current genocide of Palestinian people being committed by Israel. To him, that was an easy, flat call of anti-Semitism. Israel is the only primarily Jewish nation on earth. Thusly, if you're against it, you're anti-Semitic. Remember, I led off by saying it's easy for Republicans to simply do that. Well, so much of the American support of Israel comes from their base, the evangelical Christians. It's quite an oddity. In fact, there are more American evangelical Christians who support Israel as an idea and as a sovereign state than there are Jews that exist on the planet. There's about 78 million American evangelical Christians. There are roughly 16 million total Jewish people. Remember, you don't have to be Jewish to believe in Israel as a state. That term is Zionism. A Zionist is a person who believes in the movement of Jewish people to and the establishment of a Jewish ethno-state in the land of Israel, otherwise known as Palestine. And for lack of a better phrase, I don't believe the evangelical Christian movement is acting in good faith when it comes to Israel. They don't view a Jewish state in Palestine as needed for a general basic reason, like, say, they might view the United States or China and their natural right to exist. They view a Jewish ethno-state called Israel as needed in Palestine because they view such a people and such an area needing to be there for the second coming of Jesus to occur. That's seen as the ultimate goal in Christian beliefs, resulting in a Christly kingdom on earth. That's bound to create some tension in the American populace, as not everyone is going to agree to that, nor will they let slip the idea of a massive Christian support of a nation and a people who fundamentally don't view Christ as a heavenly created Messiah anyway. Adding on, the Zionist belief exists for so many, regardless of the non-Jewish people who happen to live in the area already, namely Muslims and Christians. A big proponent of Zionism is Joe Biden, the former Catholic president, who famously said the following in 1986. Israel is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the U.S. would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. He's also on record recalling from Golda Meir, Israel's first prime minister, who was a woman, the belief that Israel will remain strong because, as Golda said, we have no place else to go. That's a common belief I've seen around the internet the past couple of years. The belief there's no other place in the world for Jewish living and security. After October 7th, Biden said that for 75 years, Israel stood as the ultimate guarantor of security of Jewish people around the world, so the atrocities of the past could never happen again. He then said the U.S. definitely has and has had Israel's back. Give me 1 second here. But in that sense, a nation as pluralistic and as domestically secure as ours, I'd offer, would be a fantastic place for Jews to live. I'm not jingoistic like so many of my Republican friends, trying to deport so many people. So in that aim, keeping in mind 7.5 million people of the Jewish faith already live in the United States, bringing in the other 9 isn't a horrible idea. It's literally like, it isn't like literally Israel is the only place for Jews to A, live, and B, feel safe. You can live here, Costa Rica, Canada, England, France, etc. But that's the view of the faith part. That's the view on people who live the faith. And to quote the Libertarian Party, liberty is not geographic, it is human. No faith, no ethnicity, no collective has a higher right to freedom than another. Being blunt, a Jewish Zionist is just as human as a believer in a Muslim state. And I must say, it's not lost on me how aggressively Zionist Joe Biden is and was during his career, how earnestly he believes what he believes, how he said what he said, and the Republicans in the last race lambasted him for not being strong enough with Israel. And it's not lost on me that Biden never considered that Israel is also capable of doing mass atrocities. Never again is for all people, not specifically Jewish people. And that's the key here, especially as so many are believing there's a rise in anti-Semitism here and abroad. That's why so many significant people need to stop just throwing the phrase anti-Semitism around. What is a Semite? A Semite, or a group of Semites, is a descriptive term for an ethnic, cultural, or racial group associated with people of the Middle East, including Jews, Akkadians, Phoenicians, and even Arabs. That's incredibly important on this topic to know many Arab peoples are also Semitic, because if you take the position that Israel shouldn't bomb Gaza to the point of dust, killing hundreds of thousands of people in the process, and get called anti Semitic for having the position as it's anti Israel, you're effectively saying one Semitic group is allowed to kill other Semites. And if you say they shouldn't, then you're anti Semitic. It's a mind boggler. And we have to deal with it because so many people are trying to label a simple anti Zionist take as anti Semitism. It's easier to make someone like myself or college students chanting Free Palestine feel defensive if we're labeled as anti Semitic. That way, the opposing side doesn't have to spend any time thinking about the human cost that Israel is burning through. Look at the 2nd Congressional District of Virginia Republican Chair Dennis Free. Recently, he shared a post citing pictures of college campus protests about the Gaza genocide and pictures about the Boulder attacker, pictures of victims of the DC attack, and a scene from inside the governor's mansion of Pennsylvania, which recently had an arson attack. That anti-college campus take is big for Republican politicians. See Donald Trump and Harvard. See Dennis Free right here. And see Lieutenant Governor candidate John Reed. I was present at a Virginia Beach Tea Party event on Sunday where he was a guest. Reed spoke, and he said he won't be easy on Virginia colleges who allow rampant anti-Semitism. And that's only powerful if you believe there is a rampant spate of Virginia college anti-Semitism. As for the images that Dennis Free shared, the Pennsylvania governor attack was a dude who had an issue with Shapiro's stance on Israel-Palestine, how Israel's attacks were leading to the deaths of Palestinians. The DC attacker is a far-left activist. He traveled from Chicago to DC with his pistol and fired on 2 Israeli embassy employees. Once again, guns take lives. This is another example of the need for gun control. But in DC, like the Pennsylvania governor mansion, it was motivated by an anti-Israeli take. Elias Rodriguez didn't shout death to Jews. He was arrested yelling Free Palestine. Aaron Bushnell yelled that too. The difference is Bushnell went to the embassy and set himself on fire while yelling Free Palestine. He got his message out, and the only damage was to himself. Not to the governor's mansion, not to 2 youngsters leaving a DC Jewish museum, and not traveling to Boulder, Colorado, and trying to light people on fire. As different as all those events are, they seemingly had a similar message: the dislike of what Israel is doing to Palestinians. And what Israel is doing to Palestinians shouldn't be thought of as something pertaining to Jewishness. That's why I have issue with Mr. Free here in Virginia. He shared that post with the following sentence: now the malignant anti-Semitism on campuses and elsewhere has grown to murder, attempted murder, arson, assault, and burglary. What should be our response? See how easy it is to flip that counter movement over to how it must simply be anti-Jewish hate. It's adding fire to the push to shut down the claims Palestinians shouldn't be massacred, because that's real, it's a valid take, and it's a concern of Palestinians. Virginia's 2nd District Republican Congresswoman has also had a couple of comments on this matter. Jen Kiggins has been saying the DC attack was a cowardly act of anti-Semitic violence and will not be tolerated, followed by saying the Boulder Act was horrific, senseless, and no community should have to experience something like this, that community being the Jewish community. And objectively, she is not wrong. No community should deal with this violence. Violence like this shouldn't naturally happen. It's just that communities don't only exist here in the United States. Communities also exist in Israel. Communities exist in Gaza as well. The people, the man in Boulder lit on fire were there for a purpose: to walk for support of the hostages held by Hamas following the terrorist attacks of October 7th. That's an outright good thing to support. Those hostages not only being released, but supporting the idea that people shouldn't be just taken for political messages. The Boulder attacker was said to have stated, "End Zionist, Free Palestine, and how many children have been killed?" Well, to answer his last question, according to UNICEF, at the end of last month, about 50,000 children have been killed in Gaza since October 2023. But note how anti-Zionist his message was. His message wasn't that he hates Jewish people, it's a hate for Israel. And I don't believe the message of the people who attended that charity walk in Boulder was that Palestinian children should be killed. They simply wanted the hostages released. Heck, there isn't a rule. The people at the walk had to be Jewish. The message was to bring the hostages home, and here we are. To show how bipartisan this quick anti-Semitism claim is, I present the former Democrat Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates, Eileen Fillicorn, who I will admit is herself Jewish, herself an ardent Zionist, and attended the March for Israel in Washington, D.C. a month after the October 7th attacks. Eileen shared a post by Ted Deutsch, who claimed the Jewish community has been warning the world that chants of globalize the Intifada and resistance by any means necessary are calls to violence. I'll remind the viewer, Intifada is an Arabic word meaning a rebellion or shaking off, which in the context likely means shaking off Israel. Eileen shared another post, quoting Juan Halber, "We will never let violence or hatred prevent us from leading open and proud Jewish lives." The post called for financial assistance to D.C. and Boulder as it's a way to prevent future attacks and to assure American Jews finally have the safety they deserve. To which I would ask, I'm not seeing from Speaker Fillicorn a great calling for the saving of Muslim lives obliterated by Israeli action. After the Boulder attack, at least 27 Palestinians were killed by Israeli fire as they attempted to collect aid near a distribution site in Gaza. Again, guns take lives. Those folks needed to be protected from future attacks. Those folks needed to have safety. They deserve it too. And all too often to say everything is anti-Semitic, one loses the ear of listening to what the attacks were actually about and other people being thoughtlessly killed. And I do mean thoughtlessly. For the standard American is going to be shocked at Boulder, shocked at D.C., get emotionally ripped up over Jewish Americans, but then have not one shred of humanity to give toward Palestinians begging for food. I know one Virginia Democrat, Sam Razul, does do that. I see his posts calling it out. But he wasn't Speaker of the House. Fillicorn was. And she's leading posts saying the attack in Boulder is another example of domestic terrorist attacks aimed at Jewish people. It's important because I don't recall Eileen or Jen Higgins or Dennis Free or Donald Trump having words to say about Mordecai Brafman, a 27-year-old Jewish man arrested in February this year in Miami. When he was arrested, he said he was driving his truck, spotted two Palestinians, and shot and killed both. He effectively attempted the reverse of what Elias Rodriguez recently did outside the Jewish Museum in D.C., except Mordecai didn't kill anyone. The two people he shot survived. And they weren't Palestinian either. They were two Israeli tourists. Mordecai blindly attempted anti-Palestinian terror, but he actually shot two Israelis, which immediately makes me remember just how similar these Semitic groups are. And it just makes me angry at the concept of Abrahamic religions at the moment, but I digress. See, I can easily find an instance of domestic American anti-Jewish terror, the kind of anti-Semitism that should chill a person to the bone. It's Robert Bowers, a standard boilerplate Baldwin, Pennsylvania white dude, born in 1972. He dropped out of high school, became a trucker for 13 years until 2002, and was known as a ghost by his neighbors for not interacting with them. As told by coworkers, Bowers got really into conservative talk radio, especially Jim Quinn of Pittsburgh. His personal stances became increasingly white nationalist, and he grew to like the online provocateurs of fringe right-wing types. He took to commentary himself, including anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, one of which espoused Jews were assisting evil Muslims in taking over the United States. He accused ISIS of being Jewish, and the ISIS beheadings were ritualistic killings of Christians, he said. He stated on social media Jews were the children of Satan and cited John 8:44. Bowers even posted commentary supporting the white genocide theory, including a line that diversity means chasing down the last white person. He supported the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. And Bowers was initially a supporter of Donald Trump, then fell off as he believed Trump to be controlled by Jews. A local gun owner, Bowers took photos of his target practice in September 2018, as well as his 3 handguns, all Glocks, a 31, a 32, and a 33. Around this time, he went on social media espousing the Central American caravans as being Jewish-led migrant invasions. He'd say they like to bring in these invaders that kill our people. A line not unlike commentary Trump has and does say. Then Bowers added, "I can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered. Screw your optics, I'm going in." This was October 27th, 2018. And on that day, 3 services were being held at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. Shortly before 10 a.m., Bowers entered the building and opened fire with a Colt AR-15 semi-automatic rifle and his 3 handguns. He shot people at the door. He shot people in the hallway. He shot people in congregation. He shot people in closets. He shot people in the basement kitchen. He shot people heading toward the sounds of the fire, trying to help. He shot people after going back upstairs to service. And sources told police he yelled, "All Jews must die." After his rampage ended and 11 people lay dead and 6 were wounded, he surrendered to police after being shot. In receiving medical care on the scene, he told a SWAT cop that he wanted Jews to die and that Jews were committing genocide against his people. That, Sheshu viewers, is anti-Jewish thought. That is anti-Semitism. It has happened here. And it isn't like it still couldn't. There's plenty of folks trotting anti-Jewish thoughts. Yay, Nick Fuentes. There are sites like that which Bowers used still up and running. And of course, guns are still very easy to buy and own in the United States. It could be an anti-Jewish attack at a synagogue like in 2018, or an anti-Black attack in a South Carolina church, an anti-immigrant attack like at an El Paso Walmart. It could be any day because people are so easily radicalized and guns are so easily ownable. But in so much as we need to do what we can to eradicate anti-Jewish thought, I don't want anti-Semitism to be lumped in with other political thought, because saying free Palestine isn't anti-Semitic. Saying Jewish space lasers are causing wildfires is anti-Semitic. Asking how many children died in Gaza isn't anti-Semitic. A contemporary president saying the only people he wants counting his money are short guys who wear yarmulkes all day is anti-Semitic. Wanting Israel to stop the wanton killing of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, stealing land furthermore in the process, that's not anti-Semitic. Palling around with Jewish haters like Kanye West and Nick Fuentes is anti-Semitic. We need accurate commentary, folks, and I want to be one of the voices bringing that to you. So we need to call on the United States to stop funding and arming this Israel genocide of Palestinians. Hamas needs to release those hostages. Hamas needs to be met with stronger, more secular, and human-friendly political parties. I say this knowing there are reports Hamas is routinely pushing for a provision in a ceasefire that would see it relinquish power in Gaza, but Israel keeps denying that. In terms of activism, and as far-fetched as it is, dare I say, Israel needs to help the rest of the world rebuild Gaza and make it a truly free world city. International help is needed to foster a Palestinian state just as thoroughly as it did in creating a Zionist state in 1948. Let's just do the most right thing. So thanks again for watching Sheshu, and thanks to the viewers for making a show like this possible. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you may tune in for the next Sheshu. I do hope that you guys have a good one.